It's a beautiful spring day here in Kansas City, and I want to take some time to share with you some things that a lot of the folks that are buying the cars have been communicating with me. It's really neat what people discover and find out, and I also want to talk a little bit about our design intentions, because when you sit down and design something as complex as these cars, it's really not by accident. We looked at a lot of things, a lot of materials, a lot of assemblies, how things go together, the materials we use for those to make them rugged, to make them opaque. And we're going to talk about opaqueness a little bit here today. So let's get right into it and talk about some things. So by now I'm sure that most of you know we have this the intermodal car, the double stack car, the TWF10 that's out and for sale on the website. It's selling quite well. Some of them are just about gone, but we want to go ahead and give you some more information on top of that, just to share with you some of the more unique features of the car. So let's talk a little bit about the construction of the car. So I'm a big model railroader. A lot of you know that. I've built 16 railroads. The last two have been really relatively large, completely signaled, and that's not bragging. It's just kind of a rite of passage as you develop over the years in the model railroad world. You learn a lot of things. You learn what to pay attention to and what to study. So for years we've been buying intermodal cars that have been made out of plastic, and plastic is a fantastic material. In HO scale, N scale, and of course all the scales in model railroading. It's a staple product of the model railroad industry. So, however, it does have several drawbacks. The first one is as we create more and more what I would call accurate cars, accurately dimensioned cars, what sets accurately dimensioned cars away from really the toys is how thick a lot of the materials are. In other words, how thick the sidewall materials, how thick the stirrups are, the grab irons, and all those things. So the neat thing is with plastic is you can make, definitely you can make things thinner and thinner and thinner, but there's two major trade-offs with that. The first one is strength. So we end up with cars that have very little strength. And unfortunately, in the model railroad world, when we're pulling long strings of cars, or we're letting plastic sit for long periods of time, over time it will warp and or bend into shapes that are less than accurate. That happens with a lot of plastics. So this is a car from another manufacturer, and that is one of the things you'll see almost out the gate, that there's some issues with the strength of the body itself. The second one, the issue, and this is the one that probably bothers me more, is the issue of light shining through, because these are not opaque models. So if I shine a light here, you'll see through the body that you can actually see the light passing through the body of the car. And that normally isn't a problem until you get into a room situation where these cars are sitting empty and they're backlit. In other words, there's light behind it, and you will see that light spill through the cars. So when we sat down to design our TWF10, and frankly all of our cars, we study these things very carefully, because obviously we want rigidity in our models, and we also want opaqueness as well as a really good scale cross section. So how do you handle that? Well, the first thing is you make things out of metal. So we produce the TWF10 bodies out of metal, a very high quality metal that is basically milled and injected or formed, and they're excellent bodies. They have very good cross sections, in other words, very good thicknesses throughout, and of course, obviously, these aren't going to let light pass through them, and they're not going to bend. So they're very, very, very sturdy. The other really nice thing about the metal car body is its heft. These cars can be ran toward the front of the train empty without any concerns at all of stringlining on the train. And that's really important when you're wanting to have an accurate consist, basically, where you've got empties and loads within the same train. So when you work with metal, with the Zamac casting metal, you have a couple issues, and one of those is you can only inject this metal down to a certain thickness before it actually becomes brittle and breaks. So the way we've gotten around that on our TWF10s is, and I can show you actually right here on one of the models, is in these bottom wells, we have actually have a piece of etched metal. And that etched metal allows us to create super accurate fillets in all these corner areas. And basically what a fillet is, or a fillet or a gusset, it's also called, it's an area where in the prototype they're welding together two pieces of material and they want to keep them at 90 degrees. And so they create basically an angled section between those two pieces, which basically are utilized to keep the two structural members at 90 degrees. So we combine the Zamac metal shell with a very thin, very fine etching that is laid into that structure of that body that then creates those really fine fillets underneath and in the corner of the car. And that's the type of stuff that as a modeler I just love doing, because I look at these things and having climbed all over the prototype car, I can look at this and go, this is spot on. I mean, you cannot make this more accurate than it is. And it's little things like that that help our cars stand apart. They also take a lot of more design time, because you have to design and engineer all these parts to fit. You have to think about other things too, such as expansion and contraction of materials so you don't get buckling or warping. And so we study these things a lot when we're working on the models. So the interesting thing is that since we've made our body out of metal, we're going to detail that, just like you do with any other car. And so we've taken a lot of time, and you've, I'm sure, have seen the cars in ads and things, but we've taken a lot of time to really detail these cars out. But a lot of you don't realize, and frankly, I didn't even realize, because I'd never seen all the parts of the car before, how many parts these cars actually have. And I've got a baggie of them here, and I'm going to pour them out. And this is all the parts that go to a single TWF10 car. And this includes all the etched decking, all the brake rigging, all the components, parts that go all the way through the car. And there's well over 100 of them here, including all the complex brake rigging, all the ribbing and everything. Makes an amazing car. And we took the time to design this so these cars are just A1A. They're right up top there, with really nothing else that competes with them. A couple other things. We've had a couple people write in and mention that these cars have been produced before, and the TWF10, there's a TWF10A variation that is actually a different car, looks similar but has a very different appearance around the truck area here, because they use a standard truck instead of the specialized wagon union truck. And so this car has never been produced before, and nor has the truck that goes along with it. So I just wanted to clear the air on that to let everybody know, if you're thinking about buying one of these and you think, well, I've already got some Thrall intermodal cars, I want to let everybody know that these do actually stand out as a very unique car that has never been produced before. So to get your TWF10 today, go to class1modelworks.com/TWF10, or click the link down below in the description. That'll take you right to the web page. We've got 3 variations of the cars, an early, an intermediate, and a late, and I will tell you that a couple of those are almost sold out. So hop on there today, and happy modeling.